Think we can get started so long. Good morning and welcome to this webinar. My name is Dianca Aesel and I'm the application coach for Blue North Sustainability. And in this webinar, I'm just going to give you some basic training with regards to FruitLook, just to help you get started in the tool. Okay, so first of all, if this is your first time hearing about FruitLook, what it is a web-based tool that was developed by a company in the Netherlands called eLeaf. And my company, Blue North Sustainability, is the implementation partner for FruitLook here in the Western Cape. And the big thing about FruitLook, of course, is it is 100% free. It's fully subsidized by the Western Cape Department of Agriculture. And how it works is it makes use of satellite-derived data, so not pure satellite data, but satellite-derived data to help you monitor the growth, the water use, and the nitrogen of the blocks on your farm. FruitLook provides this data to our users on a weekly basis, and the season in FruitLook runs from August to July every year. So we do supply 12 months worth of data. We have been doing that since the 2018-19 season because we wanted the citrus producers and the pasture producers to also finish out their season and be able to use FruitLook for monitoring the growth and water usage of their crops as well. Because before 2018-19 season, there was the tool was primarily focused on deciduous fruit. So we had only about 9 months worth of data. And I think before 2015-16 season, we only had about 7 months worth of data. But luckily now we have full 12 months worth of data. And in FruitLook, there is also historical data available all the way back to 2010-11 season. But it depends on if your blocks were covered by FruitLook during that specific historical time period, because FruitLook was started in the wine area, so around Stellenbosch, Franschhoek, and it expanded from there. So if you have blocks in that area, you will have data all the way back to 2010-11 season. But most blocks should have data at least available from 2014-15 season onwards. So there is historical data. And the big thing about historical data as well is you have to know what the weather conditions were to actually be able to make sense of the data. So was that a very dry year? Was there a lot of rain? Was there maybe a heat wave? So yeah, unless you know what those conditions were, it might not make sense to you. But how you can use historical data is that if you know that during the 2014-15 season, you had a really, really good harvest year, then you know then you can look at that data and you can know that is what good data looks like for your context. And if you know 2018-19 was a bad year, maybe you can look at that and see that's what a bad year looked like. So then you have a benchmark for yourself. This is what good years data looks like. This is what bad years data looks like. And then you can see where you're kind of currently at, because in FruitLook, there's no standard that says this is a good value or this is a bad value. You're always only going to be comparing yourself to yourself. So in that regard, historical data can really help you just to set up some benchmarks for yourself, for your farm's context. Okay. And then, yeah, the current area covered by FruitLook is 9.5 million hectares, which you can see is demarcated by this orange line here. So regardless of where your block is located, if it's inside this area, you can draw it in FruitLook and use FruitLook to monitor the growth and the water use and the nitrogen. And from October, we will also be including the central Karoo area over here fully into this area covered by FruitLook as well. So quite excited about that. And we will also be increasing the resolution to 10 by 10 meters, which I know a lot of you will be very excited about. And then here, to use FruitLook, it's quite straightforward. You just have to register yourself on the tool once off, and then you can load as many blocks onto your profile as you need. Okay, so the agenda for this webinar is I'm just going to quickly take you through the process of registering on FruitLook, and then I'll show you just help you navigate the new web portal and help you to see how you can load a field. There's 3 different ways: select a plot, draw, and shapefile. I'll briefly go through them all, and then also just tell you a bit about the best naming practices for your fields. And please feel free to ask me any questions. You can stop me at any time. If this is your first time using Zoom, there's a raise your hand function or a Q&A section. Just type a question in there. If you want me to unmute you, you can just let me know, and I can do that from my side if you'd like to talk to me. Okay, great. So let's keep going. I'm just going to go to my Fruit Loop quickly. So yeah, this is the Fruit Loop website. It's pretty much www.fruitloop.co.za. And you can use Fruit Loop on any device that has an internet connection. It can be used on smaller devices like your phone or a tablet maybe, but we do recommend using it on a device with a bigger screen. It's just easier to work with a map that way. Okay, and you can use it in various browsers, but it is best optimized for Google Chrome, and it does not work in the old Internet Explorer. It doesn't load the map properly, so please, if you have a choice of browser, just rather use it in Google Chrome, but it does work in Mozilla Firefox, and it also works in Edge as well. Okay, so this is basically the landing page when you enter the email address, and if you'd like to view a demo of Fruit Loop before getting into it, you can click on View Demo Blocks. But of course, if you want to get going, you can just register by clicking Get Started for free, or you can click on Register or Sign Up for free at the top here. Okay, and when you do that, you'll see it opens up this page, and here you just have to fill in all of your relevant information. The blocks with the stars is obviously the compulsory information for registering. So you can just go ahead and enter all your details. So some stuff for you guys. You can just go through all of that, enter all of your information. And then when you enter your email address, please just make sure it's an active email address, check your spelling, because in order for your account to be activated, you will receive an email after filling in this form, just to help you activate your account. And then we also just need you guys to please fill in a phone number or a telephone number, because when we want to offer you support, we will be using these contact details that you fill in here. So please do enter that for us. You can enter a phone number or a mobile number. You don't have to worry too much about the VAT. That is primarily just for statistical purposes. And then you'll go ahead and select the type of user you are you a farmer, advisor, supplier, student, whatever is relevant. You just select the right one there. And then in terms of the address, you'll just fill in your street name and number, and obviously your zip and city information. So when we actually have the chance to come and visit you guys on the farms, we use this information, the zip and city information, to determine which of our users are located in the same area, so that when we take the drive, we can visit as many of our users in the same area as possible. It's a lot more economical and efficient that way as well. So please capture that for us. And then you'll see there's now a second field to enter an invoice address. So this has actually become irrelevant with the new Fruit Loop portal. In the past, we used an invoicing system. So once you order a block, you would get an invoice. It always adds up to 0, but it was a formality built into the tool. But with the new portal, we don't actually make use of that invoicing system anymore. So you don't have to capture anything here. So don't worry about that too much. And then you can please subscribe to our newsletter. Just to keep up to date with whatever's happening in Fruit Loop, like that we've launched a new portal, or when we have new webinars again, or training sessions, or just some important or interesting information regarding agriculture and Fruit Loop, things like that is the type of info that we send through to with our newsletter. So I do advise, if you're really interested in keeping up to date, that you subscribe to our newsletter. But if you also don't want another thing in your inbox, you can choose to rather unselect this, and you can access our newsletters directly on the website as well. I will show you a bit later. It's there on the front page. Okay, and then at this stage, we can't really select a language. It's just English. And then please just capture a password for yourself. So this password, we don't have any rules here, like number of letters or characters that you have to capture here. You can enter any password that's easy for you to remember, and we'll just repeat that at the bottom. And important to just remember to select both terms and conditions before you click save. And also just double check all of your information is correct. And then once you click save, you should receive an email from info@fruitlook.co.za. Sometimes that might end up in your spam folder, so just check that if you don't receive the email. Okay, and then once you've done that, you will be able to sign in. You should be able to sign in with your details, and you can just click on sign in here. You'll enter your address and your password there. If for some reason you've forgotten, maybe you've gotten your email address and you've already registered a while back, you can just give me a shout, send me an email, send me a WhatsApp, give me a call. I can have a look at the backend and send you your email address. If you maybe forgot your password, of course, you can just use the forgot your password function. We'll take you through a process where we just send you an email with some details on where to click to reset your password, basically. So that'll just help you to get you a new password if you might have forgotten your old one. But if you're ready and you have your details in, we can just click on sign in. There we go. And then it'll bring you to this maps page, and you'll see the whole of the Western Cape pretty much. And you can then zoom into where your blocks are located. If you have loaded blocks in Fruit Loop already, you can actually zoom into them. So I just want to show you. I zoom into my blocks. And you'll see when you zoom into your blocks, I only have these two here now. But what you will usually see is if you have a lot of blocks, they'll be situated on the map together and they'll have different colors. This is a new aspect that we've brought in with the new portal. So these colors just give you a brief visual overview of the current status of your blocks. So we have a little key here as well. And what the colors mean is just when you're comparing for the same crop type for your specific farm, is that block performing below average for the selected parameter? So if it's below average for that crop type, it'll be red. Your block will indicate red. And if it's performing above average for the selected parameter for that crop type, it'll be green. And if it's yellow, it just means it's according to the average. So in this case, this particular block is producing more new growth than the average for this particular crop type that I selected for this block. So I hope that makes sense. But these colors, it just gives you a quick overview to come check, which of my blocks are maybe underperforming this week or which are performing really well. Is there something I need to do there? Maybe something I need to go and investigate. But yeah, you can then change between the different parameters by just clicking on this drop down here as well. So if you'd rather look at your vegetation index, maybe you can see my vegetation index for this block. It's average for that particular crop type. And then you can look at your ED deficit. You'll see all of the blocks, their colors will change as you change the parameter, biomass, water use efficiency, etc. So yeah, this map just gives you a brief overview of your blocks. But if this is your first time using Fruit Look, or you want to add some new blocks, then you're going to click on Add New Field over here. And you'll see we have the 3 options available to you. So you can select a plot that's already been drawn in, or you can, if you want to draw in your own fields from scratch, you can click Draw Field and then add a shapefile as a third way. So I'm actually going to start by just quickly explaining the shapefile one to you guys. So when you click on that, you'll see it brings up this information. But firstly, what is a shapefile? So a shapefile is a digital map file of all of the blocks on your farm. And a lot of the irrigation companies help their clients to draw up these maps. And you can also draw it up yourself using Google Maps. And then once you've done that, you just need to follow these steps basically to convert it into the correct format so it can be uploaded as a file into Fruit Look. And once you have the right format, you can literally just click Choose File, go find the file on your computer and then import it. And then the big benefit, of course, of a shapefile is instead of now you having to go and one by one draw in each of your fields individually, with a shapefile, you can actually have all of your fields or most of them in one file, and you can upload them all one shot, get the data for all of them one shot. So that can save you quite a lot of time. So if you can do shapefiles, please do that. But don't worry too much about these things if you might be struggling with your shapefiles. you can just send me the required map information and the details on your blocks, like block names, a list of your block names with the commodities per block and things like that. And I can then convert it for you into the correct format to upload them, your blocks in a shapefile format for you. So please let me know if you get stuck on that. Okay, big thing about shapefiles as well is in FruitLook, I was going to get to that just now, but the resolution size is 20 by 20 meters currently. So you can't draw in blocks smaller than half a hectare because if you draw in blocks smaller than half a hectare, because of the resolution, it's not fine enough. You won't be able to make out properly what is going on in your block. So when you're drawing in your blocks, and this also accounts for when putting in shapefiles, just make sure that your blocks aren't smaller than half a hectare. Okay, so that's pretty much a shapefiles. So I'm just going to go back. Then the other way that you can draw a field is select a plot function. So let me show you guys that. Once you click OK, you can just go ahead and zoom into where your blocks are located. So let me see here. And what will happen if you choose the select a plot function is once you zoom in, it's just taking a moment to load. But what you're going to see is you'll have the blocks shown as these green grid lines. So what that is during the 2017-18 season, the Western Cape Department of Agriculture did a crop census. And if you have permanent crops or you have permanent blocks, they might already have drawn in your blocks for you as part of that crop census. And then it's quite simple to get your block. You simply just click on it and it'll be selected. And you'll see the hectares appear at the bottom here. And like I mentioned, you want to make sure it's bigger than half a hectare. But let's say you do have a block that is really small that you would like to draw in. You can draw it in, just draw in a little extra corner or something just to make up that half a hectare. And then when you look at your data, just disregard that extra piece that you have drawn in. So that is a way that you could do it. But yeah, you can also resize your block here, just moving the little white dots as you need. And please don't draw in too close to the road because it does have an edge effect. So there doesn't grow a lot of things obviously in the road. So when you look at your spatial maps, you might see that side of your block is that area there is constantly a little bit more red or showing poorer growth. So in that case, that's why we just always recommend don't draw in too close to the road. But be aware of that. If you do see that, it could be because it's the road that's next to it. Okay, so that is basically to select a pre-drawn in block. Then the third way in which you can draw in a block is to select draw a field. You can click OK, and then you can just zoom into your blocks. Always have to zoom back in there. So let me just go back here. Here we go. And then you'll see you have this your mouse turns into a little cross, and you can now go and draw in your block. It's a white canvas, so you can draw them as you see fit. There we go. Just end by where you started, and it'll be drawn in successfully. You'll once again see the hectares there, and it's as simple as that. In terms of the size of your block as well, don't draw in too large fields. Maybe fields that are like bigger than 100 hectares or something big like that. Reason being is that FruitLook works with averages. So if you draw in a field that's much too big, and something happens in that field, like there's a pipe that burst, or there's a valve on your irrigation system, the automatic irrigation system that didn't maybe open during a week, then that drop or spike in the data might get lost because in the average, because FruitLook works with averages. So rather draw in kind of normal, smaller sized blocks, not too small, of course, but just to avoid that you might miss those changes in those variations in your data because FruitLook works with averages. Okay, but that is pretty much now the three ways to draw in your block. And once you've done that, when you do the select a plot function and you draw in the draw a plot function, the next step then is to set your field specifications. So you can just click on set field specifications, and then you're gonna just define the name for your block. Now in FruitLook, the way that you name your blocks is very important. you'll see now, after I've named my blocks, and I'll show you a list of my blocks, is that the list of your blocks is actually sorted alphabetically, firstly, according to the name, and then according to the block number. So what you want to do is you want to have a consistent system so that you can group all of your similar cultivars together in that list so that you can quickly compare them, because you do expect your similar cultivars growing in the same condition, soil type, to have the same data pattern, right? And if they nicely group together, you can quickly, in a weak spot, if one of them is not like the other, maybe one of them shows a sudden decrease in growth or a sudden increase in water stress, whatever the case may be. But the way that you name your blocks will allow you to easily compare those similar cultivar types. So we always recommend that you start with your cultivar name. So I'm going to pretend I'm a rich wine farmer. So let's say this is a Merlot block. And then you will add the block number. If you do have double block numbers and single block numbers, we recommend you start with a 0 before your single block numbers so that they follow easily on each other. So 0, 1, 2, 3. And then after that, you will only start with your double block numbers. Okay, so let's say that's Merlot number 9. And then you're going to select which crop type is in this block. So we have our list here. So in my case, I'll say it's a red wine grape. Now, if you don't perhaps have a particular crop type in this list, or something that doesn't match with what's in your block, you can literally select anything here. The main thing here is just the information you're going to capture here is literally for you to be able to identify which of your blocks is this, what is in that block, the data that you're looking at relates to what crop in the block. Because Fruit Look, the data gets provided without needing to know what crop type is in that block. So regardless of what's in that block, you're going to get data. So you can literally select anything here and it'll still provide you the same data. This does not influence the data at all. This is literally just for you to understand, the data that I'm looking at relates to what crop type, what in what particular block. So yeah, but just make sure that you use a constant naming system and try and get accurate crop type for yourself. So if your crop type maybe changes for this particular block, then for example, you would just come and reorder or just redraw in the block. You'll give it, maybe you'll say Merlot 9 new and just select different crop type. But it's just really for you to understand what blocks data you're looking at, right? So just keep that in mind. Okay, then you're going to select the particular seasons for which you would like to order the data for this block. And as I mentioned, you do have historical data all the way back 2010-11 season, but it needs to have been covered by Fruit Look for you to be able to order data during that time. But most blocks should have data all the way back 2014-15 at least. But yeah, we recommend that you select at least 3 years worth of data. It's good to have different years to compare the data for a block between each other. And then once you've got that, you just click simply on Add to My Fields. Now, if you've used the previous portal, like I mentioned, you'll remember we had a cart system. So it was like online shopping. You would add your fields and it would go to a cart and you would have to go to the cart to check out that whole process. But with a new portal, we are very happy to say that we have done away with that whole cart system. So all you have to do is click on Add to My Fields now, and then you'll see a little message is going to pop up that tells you, there we go, that tells you that your fields have now been successfully saved, and they automatically add it to your list, and you don't have to go and do any form of checkout here anymore. And it also tells you that your data is going to be available within 30 minutes. Now, 30 minutes is actually really long. It doesn't usually take longer than 10 to 15 minutes. But if a lot of data gets ordered at the same time in Fruit Look, it does tend to slow down the process of getting your data to you. So if you wait longer than an hour and a half, please let us know so that we can have a check in the back end what is slowing down the process. One of the examples could be that someone uploaded a really big shapefile and that it just slows down the whole process. So if you do also add shapefiles, maybe try and break them up into smaller files as well, or upload your shapefile during a time of the day when there's not a lot of traffic in Fruit Look But if you do get stuck with your data, please give us a shout, send me an email or a WhatsApp, and I will have a look at the back end, what's happening on that side, and get your data to you as fast as possible. Okay, so yeah, then you simply just click on close. And now, first of all, I just want to bring your attention again to this bar. So in the middle here, we have an indicator of what week and what season we're currently looking at in terms of the data for your blocks. So you can just click on that, and then you can, if you want to change between seasons, if you maybe saw you ordered your blocks data for 2019, but you're not seeing it in the list, just remember to change your season here as well. So I'm going to go back to last season, for example, and then I'm going to click OK. So currently, you can't select the week. You can only select the season, but we are working with eLeaf to get that functionality in here so that you can also select your week. Okay. But you'll see I've changed the season now to 2020-21, and that's for the data is being displayed for week 30. And then when you click on this little tab here, you will then see all of your blocks that you drew in for that particular season. And you'll also see the values for each block for the currently selected parameter. And you can go ahead and, if you want to look at something else, you want to compare the vegetation index, then you'll see the values change, etc. Now, this is why it's important that your naming system is done consistently. So now you can see that my similar cultivar types are easily grouped together, my Merlots and my Hanepoort, and all of that. So you can see them nicely grouped together, and I can quickly compare them and see, is there one that suddenly shows very higher values for vegetation index or very low values, and maybe for growth, then something is wrong there. So I should go and investigate that. So that's why it's important just to use the correct naming system. It'll help you a lot. Okay, then if you want to know details more about a particular block, you can just click on the block name here, and that'll open up a new tab, and you can see for that particular block what the value of all of the parameters were. So all of the growth parameters grouped, you can see each of them here, all of the moisture ones and all of the minerals as well. And that is just for the particular selected season for that specific week, what the parameters look like for this particular block. And when you click on the block name, then again, we'll see now you can actually view for this particular block, you can see a graph view. So we have this graph where for this particular selected parameter, it'll show you through all of the weeks, through the whole season for this particular block, how that parameter changed throughout the season. So you can see it kind of spikes here. We're looking at biomass production. So it kind of was highest, of course, when during the hotter months, when there's a lot more solar energy available for photosynthesis and the production of new growth. And you'll see that same pattern for your actual evapotranspiration. The biomass production and the actual evapotranspiration usually have the similar shapes. You can check out your evaporation deficit. So that is the kind of when the areas when your block was under some water stress. You don't want to have a high ET deficit value. Every now and then it should have a little bit of a spike. That's normal because of changes in weather conditions. But what you don't want to see is like this one here. There was a spike and it increased and something went wrong. There was clearly this block was under some form of water stress here. But yeah, that is basically how you would look at the graph throughout the season. And each point on this graph, if you hover over it, you can see the value of that point and the particular week you're looking at. And then also just to let you know is that in Fruitloop, we have what we call weekly data sets. So you get a data point every single week. So that would be biomass production. You'll see there's a point every week throughout the season. Also for cumulative biomass production, your ET deficits, your actual ET. But then you also have what we call instantaneous data sets. So that would be your leaf area index, your vegetation index, and then your two nitrogens. Don't know why it doesn't want to scroll down now. But your two nitrogens also are instantaneous data sets. And what that means is that that data point gets created after a satellite came over on a particular day. It's random. And took a picture at a specific time, and then that data point gets created. So it's not necessarily every week, It might be every other week, but you'll see it's quite random, but you will have points for that parameter throughout the season. So just so that you guys know, there is a difference between some of the parameters in terms of when the data gets produced. Okay, so that's pretty much your graph. And then we have the field view as well. So I'm just going to go to my biomass production again. So the field view, this gives you a spatial map of your block. So you can actually see how uniform your block is in terms of the specific selected parameter and also for the particular week. You can always change between the weeks by just clicking on this arrow. If you want to go back to previous weeks in the season, you'll see it'll actually change to week 29 or week 28, whichever you're looking at. Same goes for the field. And then just coming back to the spatial map. So you'll remember for the graph, you had a point for every week or for the instantaneous dataset whenever the satellite came around. But the value of that particular point for that week is actually the average of all of the pixels in this map for that particular week. So the average of all of them gives you that point on the graph, right? And then with this graph, when you scroll down, you can zoom in and you can zoom out. But when you scroll down, you'll see we have a scale here. And actually in the old portal, we did have values just to indicate what each color represents in the context of this parameter for your block. And we are working on bringing those numbers in again, because it does help just interpreting it a little bit better. But basically how it works, obviously, is the more towards the left side of the color scale a pixel is. So if you had a pixel that was a little bit more red, orange, yellow, that's kind of, in terms of biomass production, that would be the area in your block that for that week showed a little bit weaker growth, so less new growth was produced. And then obviously more towards the right, it's kind of stronger, higher, more kilograms of new growth produced per hectare in that specific area. So you can identify in your block visually, what are those areas that are showing weaker growth or stronger growth. And that is the exact same thing for all of the parameters. So you can have a look at your water as well, actual evapotranspiration. Then you can see, let me just go back to the field here. And you can see the areas in your block that's maybe showing less water use, or maybe there's water logging in one area of the block, which is constantly showing really high water consumption. So you can, let's just have a look at this one. So you can see this area of the block is showing higher actual evapotranspiration, so it's using a lot more water. This general area is a little bit weaker, and then you have a pixel there that's also a little bit stronger than its surroundings. And you can kind of then identify in a block for a particular week or throughout the season, which areas in your block constantly maybe shows weaker growth or lower water use, or there's an area that's constantly showing water logging, whatever the case may be. But in terms of these spatial maps, you can visually see where those problem areas are in FruitLook. And you can actually also, what you could do is you could use this to help you identify the best spots to actually put in your probes. Because, for example, you see there's an area that becomes drier much faster throughout the season than the rest of the block. Then you could perhaps put a probe there, and it can serve as an early warning system for you to go and see what, once that area starts going dry, you need to have a look at your irrigation system again. So that's the type of things that you could kind of pick up using this. Obviously, you would like your block to be uniform across for your parameters, but that's why you can quickly then spot if there's one area that's maybe not responding well to your management. Or what you can also see, which I'll show you now when we click through the weeks, you can actually also see maybe your block is uniform, and then all of a sudden an area pops up that's showing lower growth all of a sudden. So that'll just be kind of a red flag. You should go and have a look at that area and monitor it. If it starts getting bigger as the weeks go on, that could be that there's a pest that broke out there, might be health issues in terms of your plant. So you don't want it to that area that's weak to grow the whole time. Or what you could also pick up on is during your block is uniform, and then during a particular week, all of a sudden there's an area that pops up that's showing low growth or water stress or whatever the case may be. So you'll actually be able to pick up, it's usually in like these straight lines. That's very odd. And in nature, obviously, problems don't necessarily occur in a straight line. If you do see these strange straight lines that just suddenly appear in your block that you can clearly see, that's not natural. Go and investigate that, because it's most likely in that week it was some kind of man-made issue that popped up. There was maybe a pipe that burst. Maybe there was a sand filter that was blocked in that area of the block, whatever the case may be. But yeah, Fruitlook can just help you to identify that using these spatial maps. Okay, then I also just want to show you guys, you'll see on the fields page, we have this little dripper here. And when you click on this and you go and click on a particular pixel within your block, let's click on this one, it'll actually tell you the GPS coordinates. So you can literally put that into your phone or your GPS and literally walk directly to that spot in the block. And it'll tell you for the selected parameter what the value of that pixel is. Now, why this is also important to me is a lot of the times when you're looking at the scale here at the bottom, when you just see red or yellow, you think, oh, it's so bad. It's not, this area of the box, it's really bad. And when it's blue, it's really good. Now, you shouldn't always just look at the colors in that way. You should look at the value that they represent, because you can actually change the scale as well. I don't know if it's going to work. Let's see. If you want to just adjust the contrast a bit, you can see there's not too much yellow going on. So I'm just going to click recalculate. And then I think it's going to take a moment to load now. But then it'll actually change the contrast, and the colors may change, but the value of this pixel will still be the same. So you shouldn't just look at the colors. Always take the context of what the color, what value it represents as well. Yeah, I think it's struggling a bit here, so I'm just going to reset. But the idea is that you can actually change the contrast. But yeah, don't just always look, if it's red, oh, it's bad, everything is bad. Go and look at what value does that represent. Is it a high value? Is it a low value for that week? Okay, so that is pretty much the field view. I just want to go back to the graph quickly and show you guys. If you want to rather view a table of your data, you can do that as well. You can actually do that. And you can also actually export your data to for this particular block to CSV if you want, to Excel if you want to work in Excel. But yeah, we're going to talk a bit more. Annaline is going to give you some more details in part 2 and 3 about working with the data and the different parameters, what they mean. So I won't go into too much detail. But then if you ever want to do comparisons of your blocks, you will actually click on this list view here, and you'll see all of your blocks for the particular season, and then all of the parameters will be from left to right for that block listed here, and the colors will be the same of the colors that you saw on the map, just to indicate, above average, below average, all of that. And then you can actually select the blocks that you would like to compare with each other. You can click on compare, and you can select, let's say, whichever parameter you like, view comparison, and then you can actually compare them using the graph and the spatial maps for that season, which you will see now. So, for example, here we're comparing biomass production for these different blocks, and they're quite, like I said, you expect the same data pattern for the similar. Okay, well, I think that below is actually a Hanebut. Yeah, that's just a dummy data set, but the idea is that you could quickly compare them and see if there's one that suddenly, varies from the others throughout the season. And then you can also view the fields, compare them that way, and you can actually click through the season. So this is what I meant by clicking through the weeks, and you can see if suddenly there's something strange that pops up in the block, one area that's suddenly showing weaker growth or more water stress. But your Annaline in part 3, please join us. She will explain this in a lot more details with some really good examples as well. But on this page, you can also change the between the parameters. Okay, so that is the basics of Fruitlook. I'm just going to go back to the front page quickly. So on here, you can actually find some more information about what Fruitlook's all about. If you're interested in knowing more about the different parameters, you can click on each of them here, and we'll give you some more details. Here we have a news section, so just to keep up to date with the latest news and any events that we are doing, like webinars. And then you can also subscribe to our newsletter here. And we have our manual, so if you do get stuck and you'd like to just, give it a go on your own, you can have a look at our manual. You can download it for free. It's 49 pages, but it's just basically a bunch of PowerPoint slides, just telling you, click here, do this, basically what I just showed you. And yeah, you can also email Elif if you need any assistance. And I'm also linked to this email address. So for support, please do use the info@fruitloop.co.za email address. And yeah, you can learn more about us there as well and enter our, if you have support that you need, you can capture that. But if you need any assistance, please feel free to contact me. I'm actually just going to go back to my slides quickly, just to show you guys my contact details as well. So there we go. You can contact me by just sending email to my email address, or just sending me a WhatsApp, maybe a WhatsApp voice note. I respond to that. I'm available on all platforms, so whatever one you prefer, I will assist you in that. Okay, but that's pretty much the webinar. Is there any questions from anyone at this time? You can just raise your hand if you have a question, or you can type a little message in the Q&A section, and I can see if I can assist you. But if you maybe do think about something after the webinar that you'd like to ask me to, please feel free to reach out. I don't mind helping. Even if you think it's a silly question, please ask me. I like helping you guys. We want to make Fruit Loop as user-friendly for you as possible. Yeah, I'll just give you guys a minute. If you think of something, please type me a question. Okay. Okay. Seems you guys are sorted then. But like I said, if you think of something, please message me, call me. And yeah, just thank you so much for joining me for this webinar. I really hope you guys, I hope that you have a fantastic day further. Please do join us for our webinars, part 2 and 3, which is happening at 10 and 11 respectively as well. Okay, thank you so much, everyone, and have a lovely day further. Goodbye.